I wander through this wilderness alone, never knowing my right foot from my left, my hat from my glove. I'm too misty and too much in love. Say that you're leading me on, but that's just what I want you to do. Don't you notice how helplessly I'm lost? That's 'cause I'm following you. Yes, always you. On my own, would I wander through this wonderland alone, never knowing my right foot from my left, my hat from my glove. I'm too misty and too much in love.
Okay, that's working now. Welcome to the rituals of Samhain, also known in other cultures as Dia de los Muertos and an All Souls Day in the Catholic tradition. In this community, we seek to honor all the strands that lead us to celebrating those who have come before, who have loved us, and whom we have loved. And we expand that tradition to include not just those human creatures that embody and carry us in our life, but also those places and those animal companions that perhaps have loved us more than we could have ever possibly known. This is a season of change in the world. The fall is upon us, and we all enjoyed our extra hour of sleep this morning. Thank you for showing up an hour later. And this is a time when we are preparing for the winter, when the seeds are beginning to germinate under the ground, a time when the energy is strongest among the seed. It is a time for looking inward. And we begin our celebration of Samhain this morning by acknowledging that we celebrate this series of rituals on the ancestral and current homelands of the Shoshone, Paiute, Goshute, and Ute tribes. And we seek to honor their care and their tending of this land and of their family traditions over the ages by our ritual this morning as well. Before we jump into that, though, we do have to do announcements because this is still church. I want to invite Brenda to come forward and talk about our auction.
What?
The mic is not on.
Can you believe it? I'm sure none of you have heard about it. Now the mic's on.
Oh, good.
There's an auction this coming Saturday.
There is.
Yes.
And it's called the Glamorous Gala. You can glam up however you'd like, whether that's the glamour of vampires, the glamour of a gown, the glamour of not wearing jeans or sweatpants or whatever it is you work from home in. We have a super glamorous cake for the auction. It's an Art Deco cake, several tiers. That's going to be our food item for the auction. We're not doing dinner this year, but all of the proceeds for those tickets, or much more of the proceeds for those tickets, will go directly to the church. You may know that the auction is a big fundraiser for SVUUS, and we use the money that we gather from the auction for all sorts of projects around the church.
So I think it's about the clothes, but
The cake.
it's cake. It's the music, live music that you heard some of the musicians that will also be there that night. But you know what? It's about love. And the way I know that is Maureen and I got this at an auction maybe 30 years ago. And we bid on this painting by George Melling, who also painted is a member here. There he is in the back. There's George. And so we were bidding and bidding and bidding furiously to get this, and we didn't get it. And it was painted, George painted it soon after we first put up our rainbow flag. We'd gone through a welcoming congregation effort, which took us a year or two, had some hard discussions, had some really good discussions, so that we all felt we could be welcoming to LGBTQ. And that's why we wanted this so badly, because it commemorated all that. Well, Alex and Marge bought it and gave it to us. And they said because we had helped with that process and their process. And so things like that happen. Magic happens through the auction. I know Oya has a thing that she put in with love and gratitude to our community this year. Thank you, Oya. I know that, speaking of George and Nancy, I gained a reputation as a swim shark in their pool. They do a pool party every year, and the kids were like, "Stay away from that lady," because I love shooting. From the things that you and to take home something that is beloved. It's about love and community, this auction, and by giving to one another in this way, we make sure our church continues because we raise funds. So if you haven't given something, you still can. If you haven't bought your tickets, you still can. The price changes tomorrow. You'll want to do it today. Auction.svus.org. And please, you don't want to miss it. It's just too wonderful of an event and of the things that come from it all year long.
I'm just going to add 2 cents here, which is that when I was a new SVUUS friend, I wasn't even a member yet, somebody, I think it was Colin, gave me the tip that you want to come to the auction because that's where all the parties are planned. So if you want to learn more about the people in the community, meet more people, have a bit of a social life through the long winter. My husky's hair tells me it's a long winter, by the way. You want to come to the auction and put your bid on some dinner parties and some pool parties and some other stuff that will happen throughout the winter to feed your soul and keep you in good spirits.
Well, good morning, church. My name is Rob, and I serve as Director of Religious Exploration here at South Valley. And this morning, I am just so excited to officially welcome and introduce to you our new high school youth ministry coordinator. And friends, she's Jenica, would you mind joining me up here? David, I think I'll switch to my lapel if that's okay. This is Jenica, and yeah. And Jenica has been around for a long time. She has served in UU religious education and youth ministry since 2008. And in that time, she has been a part of, has served in various roles in the local and district and regional and national levels of the UUA. She is passionate about abolition, plant medicine, yoga, communities of care, and mental health. She works for the Lifespan Faith Engagement Office for our Unitarian Universalist Association to create equitable access to meaningful faith development for youth and emerging adults in partnership with local congregations. She and her husband Matt care for a dog named Copper, a cat named Hazel, and of course, their 2-year-old child made of star stuff named Cosmo, who you have maybe met around the church in previous weeks. And I actually had the privilege of getting to know Jenica for the first time back in 2012 when she was coordinator of the high school Quest Camp for our high school youth, when her group and the UCC camp that I was directing were both on site at camp out in Colorado the same week. And I'm just in awe of Jenica's enthusiasm and breadth of knowledge and skill set for this work. And we are just so fortunate to have her alongside us in this journey in our ministry to our youth. So please join me again in welcoming Jenica. Thank you. And following the service, we will be having some refreshments, have a little meet and greet downstairs in the high school room in the annex immediately after the service here. So we hope that you will join us down there to meet Jenica and share in some fellowship together. So Jenica, thanks again. This morning, following our Time for All Ages, we have nursery care downstairs available for kids 3 and younger. Our child care coordinator is Ethan Barnett. And we will have RE classes for kids aged 4 through 5th grade as well today. Our middle school youth gathering will be held during worship on the 20th and 27th of this month. And our first high school gathering will be on November 20th. Yes. As always, thank you all so much for your support of our religious exploration ministry here at South Valley. Thanks.
Okay, so I'll keep the other 2 announcements very short. So there is no worship in the sanctuary on the Sunday after Thanksgiving. That is a new tradition that we started during COVID, where we will be doing a day of service. That morning we'll be doing a litter pickup along the Jordan Park Trail, like we did last year. There will also be opportunities throughout that weekend to volunteer for the Volunteers of America, serving meals to our homeless youth. And later in the month, we will have a food bank day as well. So this is a way of living into our values. So we ask that you take that time that you would use for worship on Sunday the 27th and dedicate that to either a service project here at South Valley or to a service project of your choice in the community. So you're not off the hook for worship that day. You're just going to put your faith into action that day. And then secondly, coming up on December 4th, we will be having a congregation vote on whether or not we wish to join the amicus brief for the Utah State Supreme Court challenging their trigger law against abortion. News information about that came out in the happenings this week. So if you haven't yet signed up for happenings, because you're new, sign up for that. You can find information about what that process looks like. All people who are officially a member will have a chance to vote. So you still have time to join if you want to have a vote in that. You can talk to Lora Renshaw about that after worship. So I just invite you now just to shake off all of those announcements and all those busies and just come back into this shared space and take in our altar that we are beginning to co-create as a community here this morning, to invoke and to invite this morning into this place. I call upon our ancestors of goodwill to join us in this place, to join us in this place and walk with us in memory and in spirit this morning during our service. Let us now open this ritual by calling the 4 directions. So if my callers will please come and stand at the altar with me. You can begin to stand here.
Thought and sound, rising, moving in concentration, this season night in clear, still air, vibrations felt, clear, resounding, in the sound of drums pounding, of life's breath and heartfelt love. Come be with us this season's night, join us in our holy rite, O ancient ones of power, so mote it be.
We summon you.
We summon you and call you forth, O ancient ones of seas and oceans, living deep within the mother's waters, and raining tears of joy and sorrow on sacred altars of her sons and daughters. Come, be with us this season's night. Join us in our holy rite, O ancient ones of power, so mote it be.
We summon you and call you forth, O ancient ones, thrusting toward the skies so dark and deep within the mother's heart. Sacred mountains and stones of power, come be with us this season's night. Join us in our holy rite, O ancient ones of power. So mote it be.
Thank you. Let us now light our communal chalice, the symbol of our faith. We come from many traditions and perspectives, and yet we practice love and justice as a community with a voice that is strong and true. Please join me in saying our chalice lighting words. We light this chalice for the warmth of love, the light of truth, and the energy of action. And now, let's dance. If you want, you don't have to. You can just jiggle in your chair. So Rob and John are going to come join me. We're going to do a procession for the ancestors. So if you have brought an item to add to our altar and you have not put it yet on the altar, you're invited to do so. And our children will lead us in a procession.
All of our kids want to come up, grab an instrument, and we'll get ready.
Hopefully you grabbed that little half sheet of paper. If you did not, there are some probably still in the back. We'll be singing the first one. And you can feel free to stand or sit. You can process with the children as you wish. We're just going to let this go for a while here.
To go in the dark with a light is to know the light. To know the dark, go without sight, and find that the dark too blooms and sings, and is traveled by dark feet and dark wings. To go in the dark with the light is to know the light. To know the dark, go without sight, and find that the dark too blooms and sings, and is traveled by dark feet and dark wings. To go in the dark with the light is to know the light. To know the dark, go without sight, and find that the dark too blooms and sings, and is traveled by dark feet and dark wings. To go in the dark with the light is to know the light. To know the dark, go without sight, and find that the dark too blooms and sings, and is traveled by dark feet and dark wings. To go in the dark with the light is to know the light. To know the dark, go without sight, and find that the dark too blooms and sings, and is traveled by dark feet and dark wings. To go in the dark with a light is to know the light. To know the dark, go without sight, and find that the dark too blooms and sings, and is traveled by dark feet and dark wings. To go in the dark with the light is to know the light. To know the dark, go without sight, and find that the dark too blooms and sings, and is traveled by dark feet and dark wings. To go in the dark with the light is to know the light. To know the dark, go without sight, and find that the dark too blooms and sings, and is traveled by dark feet and dark wings.
Thank you all so much, friends. I'll take your instruments back in here if you like. Thank you so much. And you can stay up here. We're going to tell our story up here this morning. You can come have a seat. All right. Awesome. Nice job. Thank you all so much. All right. Once upon a time, There was a child who got lost in the woods, and as night began to fall, the child became more and more frightened, as I'm sure that any of us would be in that situation. But what made this kid even more frightened was that he had always been afraid of the dark. Anyone else? He was more afraid of the dark than any of his friends or any of his brothers or sisters, and he didn't know why that was. He only knew that when the sun went down, he was always very glad to be back in his brightly lit house. And when the sun was all the way down and the only light was just a tiny bit of light from the moon and the stars, the child got so frightened that all he could do was sit down and cry, which he did. Soon, he heard a voice say, "What's all that racket?" He looked down and saw a mole squinting up at him. "I'm lost in the woods," he said, "and it's dark. I'm afraid." "Well," said the mole, "perhaps you should take your noisy crying farther down the path. I hate having to come out from my warm, comfortable, dark hole to tell people to be quiet." Then the child heard another voice. "Go back down in your burrow, Mr. Mole. I'll take care of this." The child looked up in the direction that this newer voice seemed to be coming from, and in the darkness he could see two glowing eyes looking down at him. And before he could scream, which was his first impulse, there was a flutter of wings, and the creature flew down near him, and he could see that it was an owl who said, "Please excuse Mr. Mole. He hates to come out of his nice dark hole, like for anything, to be honest." At this, the child burst out crying even harder than before, because as frightened as he was of the dark, having non-human animals speak to him was beyond his experience and a little frightening in itself. "No need for that crying," said the owl. "If you just give me your address, I can guide you home." With that, the child did indeed stop crying, partly out of the relief that someone might be able to lead him home, partly out of curiosity as to how an owl could locate his home with or without the address. But deciding he had little to lose, the child got big and brave, choked back his tears, and said that he would be very grateful to be guided home, and he gave the owl his address. And I hope that everyone here maybe has their home address memorized, just in case an owl ever has to guide you home. So this strange pair, the owl and the boy, headed off through the dark forest in what the child hoped was truly the direction of his home. He wasn't sure. When his fear left him, even just a little bit, the child looked around, and though the moonlight was dim, he began to notice his surroundings a little bit more as his eyes adjusted. At one point, he noticed a kind of flower that he had never seen before, and he slowed his pace just a little bit so that he could look at it. "That," said the owl as they continued walking, "was an evening primrose. Did you know that there are some flowers that bloom only at night? There are moonflowers and night gladiolas, too. Flowers you would never see if you never went out at night." After a while, the owl said, as if musing aloud to herself, "And of course, there are animals too who love the night and love the darkness." For example, me, I love the dark. In the daytime, the lights actually hurt my eyes. So that's when I like to go into my tree and sleep. And to this, the boy replied, "Well, I like the daytime. I can see to kick a ball. I like the hot sun at the beach. When it's dark, it isn't scary, it's just boring." "Boring, you say?" replied the owl, and she clearly had some opinions to express on this point, but just then there was a fluttering and squeaking about their heads. It took the child just a few seconds to figure out what it was, and he shrieked, "Bat!" And he started flailing his arms to knock the creature away, shrieking the whole time. The shape backed away, hovering just out of reach, said, "Excuse me, that's just my way of saying hello." "Well, hello to you, Mr. Bat," said the owl. "This child was out here lost in the forest, and I'm helping him find his way home. You aren't hurt, are you?" Well, said the bat, I'll probably have a bruise, but I think I'll live. But you're a bat, said the child. A creature of darkness. Aren't you trying to, like, drink our blood or something? No, said the bat, but I've been eating lots of yummy insects who would have been biting you if I hadn't have been around. Thank you very much. Anyway, I couldn't help what you said about darkness being boring. If you want to just come a little bit out of your way, I can show you something really exciting. Well, my parents always told me never to go any places with strangers, said the child. Owl will vouch for me, said the bat. We've known each other for years and years. Owl agreed that Mr. Bat was indeed an upstanding citizen, so the group went off on the path and traveled through the deepest forest for what seemed like just a few minutes. And then they came out onto a dark beach. Here we are, said the bat. The child gazed out at the beach, lit very gently by the moonlight, and thought, well, this is certainly beautiful, even in the dark, but I don't know if I would really call it exciting. Just then, there was movement in the sand, like a little bubble of sand rising up. And then there was another little bubble, and then another. It looked almost as if the beach in the area they were looking at was boiling. Then, out of one of those little bubbles of sand, popped a rounded shape. Ah, looks like we got here at just the right time, said the bat. As they watched, more and more shadowy shapes came up out of the sand, and soon the child realized what he was seeing. Lots of baby, what do you think?
Scorpions?
Scorpions? No? What do you think?
Sea turtles.
Turtles. Climbing out of the sand. Hundreds of them. This was truly exciting. Once each turtle shape pulled itself out of the sand, it started crawling as fast as its legs could carry it towards the water. When baby sea turtles hatch, said Owl, in a sort of teacherly voice, they need to find their way to the water. And they almost always do this at nighttime because to find the water, they need darkness everywhere else to follow the moon and the starlight reflecting off of the water. Daytime sunlight is too bright and it's scattered everywhere, and the brightness on the water doesn't help with that very much. Oh, said the child. As they turned to leave and head back towards the child's home, Owl spoke again, as if thinking aloud to herself. You know who else loves the darkness besides all of the nighttime plants and animals? The moon and the stars love the darkness. That's when they can really shine. Oh, they're there in the daytime as well, of course, hidden behind a wall of light. But when that wall goes down with the sun, the stars and the moon reveal their beauty. After what seemed like a very short time, the owl and the child left the forest and walked down a street that the child recognized as his own. He was very happy and relieved, but also a little sad to say goodbye to Owl, to whom he gave a very gentle hug and a thank you. He went into his home and, being extremely tired at this point, got ready for bed right away. But before he went to bed, as a matter of habit, he bent down to turn on the night light that he always kept glowing through the night to keep the dark at bay. But before his fingers touched the switch of the nightlight, he smiled and pulled his hand away. He got into his bed, pulled up the covers, and let the comforting arms of darkness soothe him to sleep. The end. If you all would like, you're welcome to come downstairs and join us for our activities this morning.
It is a time at the end of one year and the beginning of another. It is a time of year when it is believed that the veil that separates the world of the living and of the spirit is the thinnest. It is a time for reflecting on the past with gratitude and reflection. We meet within these blessed bounds to celebrate Samhain, the time of passing from one season to the next, passing from the old year to the new, passing from life to death to life. The pumpkins are ripe in the fields as the north wind chills the air. The earth is dark and cold and brown. The earth that was so fair, the wheel has turned full cycle from birth to death at last. And we look back for the knowledge from the life that now passed, the knowledge that is the seed of all we will be and feel, the knowledge that comes from living in the turning of the wheel.
At this time, all gathered in the sanctuary are invited to come forward and light a candle on our altar. And if you still have an object that you have not placed on the altar, you may, of course, bring it forward at this time. So we'll have some music while that happens as well. So for those at home, I encourage you to light a candle at your home and enter in the chat box the name of the loved one that is on your heart. I invite you during this time of ritual reflection to move quietly and with reflection. Do not rush. Come to the altar as you wish to light your candle, linger, and then return.
Find a stillness, hold a stillness, let the stillness carry me. Find the silence, hold the silence, let the silence carry me. In the Spirit, by the Spirit, with the Spirit giving power, I will find true harmony. Seek the essence, hold the essence, let the essence carry me. Let me flower, help me flower, watch me flower, carry me. In the Spirit, by the Spirit, with the Spirit giving power, I will find true harmony.
It smacks me sometimes how connected we are. Though we draw boundaries, build walls, fight wars, call names and kill, all it takes is a photo of Earth from space, and I'm stunned again how much we are in this together. And though we'd rather not know it, every choice we make affects everyone, everything else. Perhaps this is why I weep when the woman I've barely met embroiders me a sweater with a word she knows I'll love, and then brings it to my home. Because it's proof of kindness, a confirmation that beauty not only exists, it will lead us to each other. How easily two strangers might become friends. It can happen anywhere on this small blue and green planet. Anywhere two people coexist, the invitation to be generous, thoughtful, to think of new ways to be good to each other. Each kindness, a bridge that spans the world's flaws. Each moment, another chance to build another bridge.
We light now the candle for COVID. $6.94 million people have lost their lives during this pandemic. Be in silence with me. For the families and friends of those departed during this pandemic, we cannot cover or explain away your pain with a high number. We can only extend our hand in solidarity. For those that continue to struggle with the long-term effects of COVID, we can only offer this, our noticing that it is real, and our care and our compassion as you seek to rebuild your life. And for the millions who have lost their lives. There are no words. Amen. A short poem and homily. My grandmothers. My grandmothers are a part of me, complexly so. All three were given. The first two by blood and the third by love later in my grandfather's life. One gave me unconditional love, warmth, an always full cookie jar, homemade jam. Another insisted on culture, education, and service to others. I didn't care for the rose-flavored candies she gave me that year. The last was all kindness and light, inviting me to see beauty. Her art graces my walls, pastel, flowing watercolors. 2 I would still choose. 1, it's complicated. Forgiveness is work, as is healing to wholeness, and each uncertain step onto new ground, surprising me along the way with an overwhelming love. I am a granddaughter, a daughter, a mother already. One day, I too will be an ancestor. My hands, though, these hands are not from my grandmother's. These hands are my grandfather's hands. Lover of Klondike bars in the ocean, hard-boiled eggs with toast. Once we walked the beach after a storm, marveling at the rooms now exposed. A box of Cheerios still upright on a kitchen table, the milk probably spoiled. I named my daughter after this grandfather because he made me feel safe and loved. She did not get his hands, though hers are good too. My grandfather gave his hands to my father, and in turn he gave them to me, and I gave them to my son. Mine are large, much too large for gloves, enough for a full key on the piano, and good for cradling babies' heads. Hands, I think, say a lot about a person. I'm looking at yours, and yours, and yours. They tell me who you are. They tell me who you are. I look for kindness there, and also what you might need from my hands as we walk together this way or that. When my grandfather, Sidney, who gave me these hands, was a young man in the 1930s, he dreamed of being a medical doctor. However, his grandfather, my great-grandfather Basil, was a domineering and controlling, often cruel man. And he wanted my grandfather to become a lawyer, just as he was. My grandfather resisted. He knew he wanted to be a doctor. So he applied and was accepted to Harvard Medical School. He booked his train ticket and packed his suitcase. And despite the prestige of having been accepted to Harvard, his father crushed his dream, threatened to cut him off, refused to pay for school, and insisted he go to law school. And so my grandfather went to law school. He walked away from his dream. And even though he went on to become a very competent lawyer, he was quietly sad that he had never pursued that dream. There was no one in his life at that time to support or encourage him to follow that dream. My grandfather was well suited to being a grandparent. By then, his terse and recalcitrant ways, perhaps that sadness, had mellowed, and he delighted in me and my brother and my cousins. My childhood is filled with special memories of him. Smashing pennies under the train as it went by, early morning walks along the beach, those Klondike bars, and the fantastical stories he would tell me about a land beyond the clouds. Yet those wounds that he suffered, he passed them along to my father, and then to me and to my children, and it is ours to carry and to heal. My father struggled with anger and disappointment and loss in his life, and I too have struggled with those things as well. And this is not a judgment of who he was or who even my great-grandfather was, but it is just a description of that line of pain and sorrow that can be carried from one generation to the next. I think we do our best to heal as we can. When my daughter was born, I named her Sydney with a Y. It was my small way of seeking to redeem and to heal that past, to set him and our family on a slightly different path, to honor who he was and who he might have become. It may not seem like much, but I trusted that paying attention to the lines of connection matter. And as chance would have it, my daughter a few months ago announced that she is going to medical school. I am, of course, delighted. She's free to change her mind. I am delighted that she has chosen a bold and bright future for herself as a woman. I've made her promise that she will apply to Harvard Medical School. She says, "Mama, I don't want to go there." And I said, "It doesn't matter. You go where you want. Just please apply. Because if you get accepted, I need a copy of that letter to post next to my grandfather's picture and to see and to honor that line that goes such a twisted and curvaceous way through all of us, connecting us to something that is so grand and so vast. It is hard to encapsulate, and it's hard to imagine it ever ending or ever beginning. And so may it be with your stories. As you find your way through today and in the days to come, may you find those strands and those narratives that connect you. Some of them are painful, some of them are joyful, and together they weave us into who we actually are. And may that be enough for today. Thank you. Sit with me in silence for a moment more, and then we will close our ritual by calling the directions to close. Oh, sorry, no. We have a whole other part to do. Okay, actually now we're going to call the names of our departed. Please call out the name of those you wish to be remembered in this community. If there is a pause between names, allow that silence to be. If you speak over one another, it's okay. All the names of the ancestors are welcome here. And if there are names in the online community, please put them in the chat box, and we will do our best to read them into the room. And I know Brenda is listening from the office, so she'll know to come forward in a moment. So speak as you wish. I will begin. Sydney. Linda. May these names join the cloud of witnesses. It is said that no one is forgotten until their name is no longer whispered. We invoke these memories and these ancestors to be among us. Home by Putu Oka Sukanta. I hope to hear knocking at the door that I have kept closed, though not completely locked. I hope to see shadows come and go in the windows, but only the roar of the wind greets the cold drizzle. I hope to hear knocking at the door, or if not, just a shadow passing by in the window, so that I can speak of my happiness, of how much I miss you. Spirit of life, God and Goddess, we thank you for watching over this time and being with us in our circle tonight, sharing your strength and power, your wisdom, and your love. God and Goddess, go if you must, stay if you will. So mote it be. We take delight in those ancestors that have joined us this morning. We delight in the memories and the moments that are yet bubbling up in our spirits. Until we meet again, dear ancestors, may all be well. Thank you for joining us in this time of celebration, for sharing your good intent and goodwill with us. And until we meet again, amen. Let us close our directions.
O ancient ones, thrusting upwards to skies so dark and deep within the mother's heart, sacred mountains and stones of power, we thank you for your attendance, your protection, and your joy. Before you depart for your realms, go if you must, stay if you will. We bid you farewell. Depart in peace. So mote it be.
O ancient ones of seas and oceans, we thank you for your attendance, your protection, and your joy. Before you depart for your realms, go if you must, stay if you will. We bid you farewell. Depart in peace. So mote it be.
O ancient ones of fire and light, we thank you for your attendance, your protection, and your joy. Before you depart for your realms, go if you must, stay if you will. We bid you farewell. Depart in peace. So mote it be.
O ancient ones of thought and sound, we thank you for your attendance, your protection, and your joy. Before you depart for your realms, go if you must, stay if you will. We bid you farewell. Depart in peace. So mote it.
We're just going to breathe for a moment. If you wish, you may close your eyes. And now that the ritual is closed, we're going to move into our offering. This community, those here in person and those who are here in spirit and those who are here online, our church and all its ministries are only made possible by the gifts you give of your time, your talent, and your treasure. Many pledge monthly to support the work that's done here, and we are very grateful. Your gifts help ensure that we are able to live our values of love and justice in this world. This month, our split offering recipient is the Christmas Box International. Since 1996, Christmas Box International has been providing emergency shelter care, support to teens transitioning out of foster care, and holiday joy to children and youth through gift drives. And their mission is simple: every child deserves a childhood. If you would please join me in reading our offertory words there in your order of service. We are this church. We are its hands, its heart, its voice. Together, we share the wealth of this community and sustain it with our gifts. We will now accept the offering. For those at home, you are invited to use the giving link in the order of service, and I invite the ushers to come forward at this time.
The falling leaves drift by my window. The autumn leaves of red and gold. I see your lips dip the summer kisses, the sunburned hands I used to hold. Since you went away, the days grow long, and soon I'll hear old winter song. But I miss you, my and soon I hear old winter's song, that I miss you most of all, my darling. When autumn leaves start to fall.
Thank you so much for the gift of your music this morning, for all that we have received and all we have found the courage to give. May we be truly grateful. May these gifts be a blessing on South Valley and on Christmas Box International. Please stand as you are willing in body, mind, or spirit, and join us in extinguishing our chalice. If you wish to say our words, they're in our order of service, or perhaps you have them memorized by now. We extinguish this chalice, but not the light of warmth of love, the light of truth, or the energy of action, and we hold each other in our hearts until we meet again. Please remain standing for our final hymn. It is number 53? 53. Yeah.
Verses 1 and 5. I walk the unfrequented road with open eye and ear. I watch afield the farmer load the bounty of the year. I face the hills, the streams, the wood, and feel with all akin. My heart expands their fortitude, and peace and joy flow in.
As you go forth from this place, may peace and joy flow in, filling you with courage and fortitude for the days ahead. Go now in peace and be good to one another. You be seated for the postlude.
Skylark, have you anything to say to me? Won't you tell me where my love can be? Is there a meadow in the mist where someone's waiting to be kissed? Skylark, have you seen a valley green with spring? where my heart can go a journey over the shadows and the rain to a blossom-covered lane, and in your lonely flight, haven't you heard the music in the night? Wonderful music faint as a will-o'-the-wisp, crazy as a loon, sad as a lonely serenade to the moon. Oh, skylark, I don't know if you can find these things, but my heart is riding on your wings. So if you see them anywhere, won't you take me there? Oh, skylark, I don't know if you can find these things, but my heart is riding on your wings. So if you see them anywhere, won't you take me there?
Thank you so much. We get an extra hand of applause for Richard on bass guitar, Stephen on piano, and Trevor on the drums. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you.